Yesterday, the acting police commissioner, Lieutenant General Khomotso Phahlane, announced changes to the senior management structure within the South African Police Service. Some feel the changes are long overdue, as far back as 2013. A National Development Plan report stated what it called a serial crisis of management within the essential service. Others feel some of the appointments are just not justifiable. To help us make sense of some of the changes, we're joined from our Pretoria studios by Dr. Johan Burger from the Institute of Security Studies. It's so good to have you on the program. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Elaine.
Now, are the changes necessary?
Absolutely. I think, as you mentioned, the serial crisis pointed out in the National Development Plan. I think if you look at just the last few years, you have so many senior officers at the top level, the National Commissioner included, deputy and other senior officers either suspended or facing criminal charges. And it's caused a complete disarray at the senior police leadership level. And one can only imagine the difficulties that cause for the police itself, and of course in terms of confidence and trusts as far as the public is concerned. So I think this was absolutely necessary.
What is the extent of what the National Development Plan has referred to as the crisis of management in the SAPS?
Well, I think, there's a number of issues that one can include in this whole process, but I think in the main it refers to what started with Jackie Selebe as National Commissioner, eventually convicted on a charge of corruption and sent to prison. Then there were acting national commissioners. There was General Bheki Cele, who eventually himself was removed as a result of the Public Protector's report and a board of inquiry. Again, an acting national commissioner. Then came Ria Piega, who is also, like two predecessors, not a police officer, no policing background or experience, and the rest is history. Now she is also suspended, and soon will face a board of inquiry. In the process, of course, a number of other appointments were made by her of people who had no police experience or background, causing further uncertainty and causing a lack of confidence within the police service in the top structure of the organization. Yeah. So all of this, I think, became part of what is now referred to as a serial crisis of police management.
So we look at the changes that are taking place now, and I want to just delve a little bit into them because, but first, before we look at some of the changes, there are also questions on the strength of these changes being brought about by an acting official in his capacity, and we're talking about Acting Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Khomotso Phahlane and his leadership. The authority there, is it strong enough?
Well, I think being an acting national commissioner is always going to be, relatively speaking, a weak position. But I think one has to admire the fact that this man has decided that we do not have the luxury of waiting until eventually a new national commissioner is appointed. The crisis within the police service, as well as the crime crisis, is just too big for us to wait. And it could be a number of months before the cases against Ria Piega is finalized, and then we have a new national commissioner. So we just don't have the luxury to wait. So for that reason alone, I think we have to admire the fact that this man has the guts, and of course as a police officer, understanding the police service, is prepared to make these changes that he sees as necessary.
Now, I want to look at one of the particular appointments, and the one that, of course, has got everybody talking, and that is of the Mpumalanga head. And we're talking about Mr. Zuma, or Lieutenant Zuma, the appointment that was made yesterday, Mondli Zuma. Now, he had many charges against him, reckless driving, related charges. The issue of a loss of a firearm then emerged. He pleaded guilty in a Pietermaritzburg High Court, but then, there were a whole. He's got a background, and that's the reality. He's got a history. Is this kind of appointment what we need to sort things out, the issues that you've been talking about?
Well, of course, given all the appointments, and there's been a number of appointments, and there's been a very complex restructuring of the top management of the police. So one could argue, just looking at one person would perhaps not bring justice to the whole argument. But I think one could perhaps now, with hindsight, look back and says, with all the good intentions, all the good things that you are doing, perhaps you could have avoided the appointment of someone as controversial as Lieutenant General Zuma. But on the other hand, I think what he now argues is that the charges against General Zuma in terms of the drunken driving case all relates to one single incident. It's not a number of separate crimes that he was accused of. And of course, then there's the firearm issue. The firearm lost was the only allegation against him which he paid a fine for, and which, of course, makes him guilty of an offence in terms of the Firearms Control Act. Mm-hmm. So that may be a debatable appointment, something that can be questioned. Yeah. But I think we should look at the whole package and not just focus on one man only.
Individual. So just in a nutshell, to wrap it up, we've got about a minute, just the rest of the appointments, what we are looking at. Did this bring about a trust within you? Did you feel better seeing what was announced?
Yes, I think, we are, as the politicians say, cautiously optimistic. I think there was a need, given the uncertainties and the instability in the police, especially at the leadership level. So I think what is now happening, as far as we can see, is that there is a stability brought back into the police leadership. There's direction again, there's drive, and most of those police officers, as far as we know, are experienced and seasoned police officers. So we are hopeful that this is the first step to bring the police back on course again in terms of its main responsibility, and that is to make this country safe again.
Well, we hope that those words are exactly what does happen with these new appointees. Dr. Johan Burger, a senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, thank you very, very much for joining us, talking about the SAPS, some of the appointments that were announced, and of course the future going forward. Well, the time now is 7 o'clock.